The massive crystal chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with nervous energy as representatives from 47 different species gathered around the circular amphitheater. At the center sat the humans, their delegation appearing surprisingly small compared to the towering Vorthak warriors or the multiple-bodied Zenthran collective consciousness. Ambassador Sarah Chen adjusted her simple black suit and glanced at her three companions, each representing different aspects of human civilization. The Galactic Council had been in session for 3 standard galactic days, and the tension was thick enough to cut with a plasma blade. The issue at hand was humanity's rapid expansion through what the Council considered protected space, star systems that had been designated as neutral zones or buffer areas between major galactic powers. The humans had been colonizing these systems at an unprecedented rate, their massive generation ships appearing seemingly overnight and establishing thriving colonies within months. "The human expansion must cease immediately," declared High Counselor Zethvar, his crystalline form pulsing with angry red light. "Your species has violated 17 separate galactic treaties in the past solar cycle alone. The Centauran Neutrality Pact, the Vegan Buffer Zone Agreement, and the Sacred Preservation Protocols have all been brazenly ignored." Ambassador Chen stood slowly, her movements deliberate and calm despite the hostile atmosphere. The chamber fell silent as every sensor and optical organ focused on her. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly through the universal translators to every corner of the vast space. "Honored counselors," she began, "humanity has reviewed all the treaties you've mentioned. We've examined every clause, every subsection, every amendment that has been added over the past millennium. We've consulted with our finest legal minds, our historians, and our xenobiologists. After careful consideration, we have reached a unanimous conclusion." She paused, letting the weight of her words settle over the assembly. The silence stretched uncomfortably long, broken only by the subtle sounds of various species' breathing apparatus and neural interfaces. "We never signed any of these treaties," Chen continued, her voice remaining perfectly level. "Not a single one. Humanity was not consulted when these agreements were made. We were not invited to participate in their creation. We were not even aware of their existence until 6 months ago, when your first contact team finally decided to acknowledge our civilization." A wave of agitated chittering, growling, and electromagnetic pulses swept through the council chamber. The Morphic Coalition's representative shifted through 3 different forms before settling on something resembling a distressed octopus. The Hive Mind Collective's speakers buzzed in harmonic discord. "This is irrelevant," screeched the Arcturian delegate, his feathered crest flaring in outrage. "These treaties maintain galactic peace. They have prevented wars for centuries. Your ignorance of galactic law does not exempt you from following it." Chen smiled then, and something about that expression made several of the more empathically sensitive species shift uncomfortably in their seats. It wasn't a cruel smile, but it carried an edge that spoke of steel beneath silk. "You're absolutely correct, Counselor Veltar," she said. "Ignorance of the law is typically no excuse for breaking it. However, there's a fundamental principle that even your galactic legal system recognizes. A principle so basic that it exists in the jurisprudence of every civilized species in this chamber." She gestured to her legal advisor, who activated a holographic display showing thousands of documents, laws, and precedents from dozens of different galactic civilizations. "No one can be bound by agreements they never consented to join. No one can be held to treaties they never signed. No one can be subject to laws made without their participation or representation. This principle is literally written into the foundational charters of the Galactic Council itself." The chamber erupted into chaos. Some delegates demanded order, others began heated discussions with their own legal teams, and several species' emotional regulation systems were clearly struggling to maintain diplomatic composure. High Counselor Zethvar's crystalline form shifted to a deep purple, indicating serious concern. The human expansion still threatens the delicate balance we have maintained. Surely you understand that these treaties exist for good reasons. Oh, we understand perfectly, Chen replied. We understand that 47 different species spent the last 1,000 years carving up the galaxy like a dinner pie, deciding who gets what territory, who can expand where, and who has to stay locked in their little corner of space. We understand that you've created a comfortable status quo where everyone knows their place and nobody rocks the boat. She moved to the central platform, her boots clicking against the polished floor with each step. What we don't understand is why humanity should be bound by decisions we had no part in making. Why should we respect artificial boundaries drawn by people who didn't even know we existed? Why should we limit our growth and potential to fit into your neat little system? The Galactic Peacekeeper's representative, a towering insectoid creature called Ziktar, leaned forward with obvious aggression. Because the alternative is war, human. Your expansion threatens 3 different species' traditional territories. The Velnari claim you've encroached on their ancestral hunting grounds. The Machine Collective says your electromagnetic signatures interfere with their networking protocols. The Ethereal Conclave believes your presence disturbs the cosmic harmony of their meditation spaces. Chen laughed, and the sound echoed strangely in the vast chamber. Let me understand this correctly. The Velnari, who haven't actually used those hunting grounds in 3 centuries because they've evolved past the need to hunt. The Machine Collective, whose networking protocols apparently can't handle a little radio chatter from human colonies. And the Ethereal Conclave, who think our very existence disturbs their mystical energy fields. She turned to address each delegation in turn. We've examined the Velnari territorial claims. Those systems have been empty for generations. We've analyzed the Machine Collective's networking issues. Our engineers have already developed simple filtering protocols that would solve the problem in a matter of days. As for the Ethereal Conclave's cosmic harmony concerns, Chen's expression became carefully neutral. We've run extensive sensor sweeps and scientific analysis. There's no measurable cosmic harmony to disturb, no energy fields, no mystical resonances, no metaphysical disturbances, just empty space that they've declared sacred because it fits their philosophical worldview. The chamber's atmosphere grew noticeably more hostile. Several delegates were now openly expressing aggressive postures, their various biological and technological threat displays activating automatically. "You mock our beliefs and traditions," hissed the Ethereal Conclave speaker, its translucent form flickering with what passed for anger among its species. "You show no respect for the wisdom that has guided galactic civilization for millennia." "We respect wisdom," Chen replied firmly. "We respect scientific facts. We respect logical arguments and reasonable compromise. What we don't respect are arbitrary restrictions based on outdated treaties we never agreed to, territorial claims with no basis in reality, and demands that we limit human potential to avoid offending someone's religious sensibilities." She walked back to her delegation, but remained standing as she continued. "Humanity has offered to negotiate in good faith. We've proposed compensation for any genuine grievances. We've suggested technological solutions to legitimate concerns. We've even offered to share the benefits of our expansion through trade agreements and cooperative ventures." The Galactic Mediator, an ancient being whose species had founded the Council itself, spoke for the first time in the session. Its voice carried the weight of eons and the authority of long experience. "The human proposals have been reviewed and found inadequate. The Council has voted. Humanity must cease all expansion into disputed territories and withdraw from colonies established in violation of galactic law." Ambassador Chen looked around the chamber one final time, meeting the optical sensors and compound eyes and electromagnetic detection arrays of dozens of alien species. When she spoke, her voice carried a finality that made the universal translators struggle to convey the appropriate emotional weight. "The United Terran Federation has also voted. she said quietly. "We reject the authority of this council to dictate humanity's future. We reject treaties we never signed and laws we had no voice in making. We reject the demand to limit our growth for the comfort and convenience of species who've had 1,000 years to expand while we were still learning to make fire." She gathered her materials and nodded to her companions. "Humanity withdraws from these negotiations. We will expand as we see fit, where we see fit, when we see fit. Any species with legitimate grievances is welcome to approach us directly for bilateral negotiations. Any species that attempts to use force to stop human expansion will face the consequences of that decision." The human delegation moved toward the chamber's exit with calm, measured steps. Behind them, the Galactic Council erupted into pandemonium as the full implications of humanity's withdrawal began to sink in. As the massive doors closed behind the humans, Ambassador Chen could hear High Counselor Zethvar calling for an emergency session to discuss enforcement options and sanctions against rogue species. She smiled grimly as she walked toward the human transport ship. The real negotiations were about to begin. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened just 6 hours after the human delegation's dramatic departure. High Counselor Zethvar's crystalline form had shifted to an alarming shade of orange-red, indicating extreme agitation as he addressed the assembled representatives. "Fellow counselors, we face an unprecedented crisis," he announced, his voice resonating through the chamber's acoustic enhancers. "For the first time in galactic history, a species has completely rejected the authority of this council. The humans have essentially declared themselves above galactic law." The Velnari representative, a sleek predator whose species had once ruled a quarter of the galaxy before their voluntary reduction in territory, stood to address the assembly. "The immediate concern is not their legal standing, but their capability. Intelligence reports suggest the human expansion rate is accelerating, not slowing. 3 more systems showed human presence in the past 24 hours alone." Admiral Korth of the Galactic Peacekeepers projected a 3-dimensional star chart into the center of the chamber. Red markers indicated human colonies, and the pattern was sobering. Unlike other species' expansion, which typically followed predictable paths along established trade routes or toward resource-rich systems, human colonization seemed almost random. They were establishing footholds throughout the galaxy with no apparent strategic pattern. "The situation is worse than we initially understood," Admiral Korth reported. "Human colonies are appearing in locations we considered impossible to reach or too difficult to maintain. They've established settlements in systems with Class K death worlds. In asteroid fields we deemed too hazardous for permanent habitation, and in regions of space with dangerous gravitational anomalies." The machine collective's primary node flickered as it processed incoming data. Additional concern. Human technological advancement rate exceeds all predictive models. Analysis of their expansion vessels indicates significant improvements in propulsion, life support, and resource extraction technologies compared to initial contact specifications. Counselor Thane of the Morphic Coalition shifted nervously through several different forms before settling on one resembling a concerned humanoid. "Are we certain about their actual military capabilities? The humans have been remarkably secretive about their defensive technologies." This question hung in the air like a toxic gas. The truth was that nobody really knew what humanity was capable of militarily. Their first contact had been peaceful, their colonial ships appeared to be civilian vessels, and their diplomatic delegations had been small and unimposing. Yet there was something unsettling about their confidence. "We have attempted to gather intelligence through standard diplomatic channels," admitted Spy Master Velkith of the Shadow Covenant, a species renowned for their information-gathering capabilities. "The results have been troubling. Human information security protocols are unlike anything we've encountered. Their data encryption methods appear to be based on mathematical principles we don't fully understand." Admiral Korth added grimly, More concerning is what we haven't seen. Most species display their military might during first contact as a natural deterrent. The humans have shown us cargo ships, colony vessels, and diplomatic shuttles. We have yet to see a single confirmed human warship, yet they speak and act with the confidence of a major military power. The Arcturian delegates' feathers ruffled in agitation. Perhaps their confidence is merely bluster. Many younger species overestimate their capabilities when first encountering galactic politics. Economic sanctions might be sufficient to bring them to heel. High Counselor Zethvar's form flickered as he accessed multiple data streams simultaneously. Economic sanctions require cooperative trade partners. Preliminary analysis suggests humanity has been remarkably self-sufficient. They appear to require very few resources that they cannot produce or extract themselves. The ethereal conclave's representative materialized more solidly, indicating serious concern. There is another troubling aspect to consider. Our mystics have attempted to read the human's collective consciousness, as is traditional when evaluating new species. The results have been unprecedented. The chamber fell silent. The ethereal conclave's mystical abilities were often dismissed by more scientifically minded species, but their track record for predicting species behavior was remarkably accurate. Human consciousness does not conform to any known patterns, the ethereal being continued. Most species exhibit predictable collective mental signatures. Hive minds create harmonic resonances. Individualistic species generate chaotic but mathematically modelable patterns, and collective consciousnesses produce structured thought matrices. Human consciousness appears to be simultaneously individual and collective, chaotic and ordered, predictable and completely random. The galactic mediator, who had remained silent during most of the discussion, finally spoke. What specific concerns does this raise for the conclave? It means we cannot predict their behavior using any known methods. We cannot determine their intentions, their limits, or their likely responses to various stimuli. They are, in our mystical terminology, unreadable. This has only occurred 3 times in galactic history, and all 3 previous instances involved species that fundamentally altered the balance of galactic power. A wave of concerned chittering and electromagnetic pulses swept through the chamber. The 3 previous unreadable species had included the first galactic empire builders, a collective consciousness that had achieved technological transcendence, and an extinct species whose disappearance had been so sudden and complete that it was still considered the galaxy's greatest unsolved mystery. Admiral Korth brought up another holographic display, this one showing shipping manifests and resource extraction data. There's another aspect that troubles our strategic analysts. Human colonies are achieving operational status far faster than should be possible. Most species require years to establish sustainable settlements. Humans appear to be going from initial landing to fully functional colonies in a matter of months. The Zenthran Collective's multiple speakers buzzed in harmonic analysis. We have observed their colonial ships through long-range sensors. Each vessel appears to carry complete industrial infrastructure in compressed formats. They deploy automated systems that begin resource extraction and manufacturing immediately upon landing. Their efficiency rates exceed known technological possibilities. Which brings us to the central question. High Counselor Zethvar declared, "How do we respond to humanity's rejection of galactic law? Our options appear limited." The chamber fell silent as representatives considered their choices. Military action against an unknown force was dangerous. Economic pressure seemed unlikely to work against a self-sufficient species. Diplomatic isolation might only encourage further human expansion. Counselor Veltar of the Arcturians was the first to voice what many were thinking. Perhaps we should consider the possibility that humanity simply cannot be contained through traditional means. Their expansion pattern suggests they're not seeking territorial control in any conventional sense. They're not displacing existing populations or claiming exclusive sovereignty over star systems. What are you suggesting? Demanded the Velnari representative. I'm suggesting that maybe the problem isn't human expansion itself, but our assumption that it needs to be controlled, Veltar replied carefully. Their colonies don't appear to be military installations or resource extraction facilities. They seem to be genuine civilian settlements focused on peaceful development. The machine collective's node flickered rapidly, indicating intensive data processing. Analysis confirms. Human settlements show no signs of military fortification or aggressive resource depletion. Colonial activities appear focused on sustainable development and long-term habitability rather than rapid exploitation. Admiral Korth slammed a metallic appendage against his station. Peaceful intentions are irrelevant. They're violating established galactic law. If we allow one species to ignore our authority, what prevents others from following their example? This struck at the heart of the Council's deepest fear. The Galactic Order depended on all species accepting the authority of established treaties and agreements. If humanity's rebellion succeeded, it could inspire other species to question long-established restrictions and boundaries. High Counselor Zethvar's form shifted to a deep purple as he processed multiple communication streams simultaneously. I'm receiving reports from across the galaxy. Several species are quietly requesting clarification on various treaty obligations. The Fringe Colonies Alliance has formally questioned whether century-old territorial restrictions still apply to their expansion plans. 3 different species have submitted requests to review their colonial limitations. The implications were staggering. Humanity's withdrawal from negotiations was already inspiring other species to question the established order. The careful balance that had maintained galactic peace for centuries was beginning to crack. We need decisive action, declared Spymaster Velkith. Humanity must be brought back into compliance before their rebellion spreads further. But what action? Asked the Morphic Coalition representative. We cannot negotiate with species that reject our authority. We cannot apply economic pressure to species that don't need our resources. We cannot predict the behavior of species our best analysts cannot understand. The galactic mediator rose slowly, its ancient form commanding immediate attention from every representative in the chamber. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of millennia of experience and the authority of the Council's founding principles. Perhaps, it said quietly, the question we should be asking is not how to force humanity to comply with our laws, but whether our laws are still adequate for the current galactic situation. The chamber erupted into shocked silence. The galactic mediator had just suggested that maybe, just maybe, the humans might have a point. As the implications of this statement sank in, representatives began frantically communicating with their home governments. The galaxy was about to change, and nobody was quite sure what that change would look like. 2 weeks after the human withdrawal, the galaxy was in turmoil. What had begun as a simple territorial dispute had evolved into a fundamental crisis of galactic governance. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of Terra Station, humanity's newest deep space facility, watching construction ships work on expanding the massive structure. The irony wasn't lost on her. They were building this station in what the Galactic Council considered neutral space, yet no one seemed able to stop them. Her contemplation was interrupted by the arrival of Admiral Marcus Webb, the commander of humanity's deep space operations. His expression was grim as he handed her a data tablet containing the latest intelligence reports. The situation is deteriorating faster than we anticipated, he said without preamble. 3 different species have now formally withdrawn from various galactic treaties, citing the human precedent. The Fringe Colonies Alliance has declared their independence from Council oversight entirely. Even worse, 2 major powers are making threatening movements toward each other's territories for the first time in centuries. Chen studied the reports with growing concern. The Council's authority is collapsing. It's worse than that. Intelligence suggests that several species are actively preparing for military action. The Velnari are mobilizing their hunting fleets for the first time in 300 years. The Machine Collective has begun constructing what appears to be a massive military network. Even the ethereal conclave is gathering their mystic warriors. Chen set down the tablet and stared out at the stars. They're preparing for war, but they don't know who they might be fighting. The question is whether we're going to be their target or their ally when it all goes to hell. Before Chen could respond, her communication device chimed with an urgent priority signal. The face of Captain Rodriguez, commander of humanity's long-range reconnaissance fleet, appeared on the screen with an expression of barely controlled excitement. "Ambassador, you need to see this immediately. We've detected massive fleet movements throughout the galaxy. But that's not the important part. We've discovered something about galactic history that changes everything." An hour later, Chen found herself in a secure briefing room surrounded by humanity's top military and scientific minds. Captain Rodriguez activated a holographic display showing ancient star charts and archaeological data that made Chen's breath catch. "We've been conducting deep archaeological surveys of the systems we've been colonizing," Rodriguez began. "Standard procedure to understand local conditions and potential hazards. What we found was completely unexpected. The hologram shifted to show ruins on dozens of different worlds, all sharing similar architectural features despite being separated by thousands of light years. These ruins predate any known galactic civilization by at least 50,000 years. The technology is far more advanced than anything currently in use by any council species. But here's the critical part. Genetic analysis of biological remains shows these ruins were built by humans." The silence in the room was deafening. Chen stared at the data, her mind racing through the implications. "That's impossible," she said finally. "Human civilization is barely 10,000 years old. We achieved spaceflight less than 500 years ago." Dr. Sarah Kim, humanity's chief archaeologist, stepped forward. "The evidence is undeniable. DNA analysis confirms these are human remains. Carbon dating and quantum decay analysis all point to the same time frame. But there's more." The hologram changed to show technical schematics and star charts. These ancient humans had technology that makes current galactic civilization look primitive. Faster-than-light travel that didn't require jump gates. Energy manipulation techniques that could reshape matter at the molecular level, terraforming technology that could transform dead worlds into paradises in a matter of years. Admiral Webb leaned forward intently. "Are you suggesting that humans once ruled the galaxy?" "Not ruled," Dr. Kim corrected. "From what we can determine, they were explorers and builders. Every site we've found shows evidence of peaceful development, scientific research, and what appears to be extensive contact with dozens of different species. There are no weapons, no military installations, no signs of conquest or conflict," Captain Rodriguez added grimly. "But there are also no signs of what happened to them. Every human settlement we've discovered was abandoned suddenly and completely. Tools left in place, meals half-finished, research projects abandoned mid-experiment. Something caused the entire human galactic civilization to vanish overnight." Chen felt a chill run down her spine. "Do we have any idea what caused the disappearance?" "The best theory our scientists have developed is that it wasn't an external threat," Dr. Kim explained. "The abandonment pattern suggests a coordinated evacuation. Whatever happened, the ancient humans saw it coming and chose to leave rather than fight it." The implications were staggering. If ancient humans had once been a galactic power and had voluntarily withdrawn, what did that mean for current humanity? More importantly, what had they been fleeing from? Admiral Webb voiced what everyone was thinking. "Is this why the council species are so nervous about human expansion? Do they know about our history?" "We're about to find out," Chen said. making a decision that would reshape galactic politics. I want this information transmitted to every council species immediately. Full data, complete archaeological evidence, genetic analysis, everything. Ma'am, that's extremely sensitive information, Captain Rodriguez protested. It could fundamentally alter the balance of power if other species realize that humans once possessed technology beyond their current capabilities. It's going to alter the balance of power anyway, Chen replied. The question is whether we control that alteration or let it happen chaotically. If council species are preparing for war based on incomplete information about human capabilities and intentions, we need to give them the complete picture. She turned to address the entire room. Prepare for immediate transmission to all council species. Include everything we've discovered, but also include a formal proposal for a new round of negotiations. Not about territorial disputes or treaty violations, but about the future of galactic civilization itself. 2 days later, the emergency council session was unlike any in galactic history. Representatives from every major species gathered in stunned silence as they reviewed humanity's archaeological discoveries. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Humans had once been a major galactic power, possessing technology that dwarfed current capabilities. High Counselor Zethvar's crystalline form had shifted to a pale blue, indicating profound confusion and uncertainty. These discoveries raise questions that challenge our understanding of galactic history. If humans once possessed such advanced technology, why are they appearing to expand slowly using apparently primitive methods? Ambassador Chen, who had returned for this special session, smiled slightly. Because we learned from our ancestors' mistakes. The archaeological evidence suggests that ancient human civilization grew too fast and became too dependent on advanced technology. When they encountered something that their technology couldn't solve, they had to abandon everything rather than risk catastrophe. She activated her own holographic display, showing modern human colonies and their development patterns. Current human expansion is deliberately slow and sustainable. Every colony is designed to be completely self-sufficient. Every settlement is built to survive and thrive, even if cut off from all external support. We're not trying to build an empire. We're trying to ensure that humanity can survive whatever challenges the galaxy might present. The ethereal conclave's representative materialized more solidly than ever before. This explains the unreadable nature of human consciousness that troubled our mystics. You carry the memories and wisdom of a fallen galactic civilization, even if you don't consciously remember it. Admiral Korth of the Galactic Peacekeepers asked the question that was on everyone's mind. Do modern humans have access to ancient human technology? Chen's expression became carefully neutral. Some of it. We've recovered intact facilities on 3 worlds so far. Our scientists are working to understand the technology, but we're proceeding very cautiously. Ancient humanity's disappearance serves as a powerful reminder that advanced technology isn't always the solution to every problem. The Machine Collective's primary node flickered rapidly as it processed this information. Request: would humanity be willing to share recovered ancient technology with other galactic species? Under the right circumstances, Chen replied, but that's exactly why we need new agreements and new approaches to galactic governance. The old treaties and territorial restrictions were created by species with limited technology and even more limited understanding of galactic history. We need to build something better. High Counselor Zethvar's form brightened slightly. What exactly are you proposing? Chen stepped to the center of the chamber, addressing the entire assembly. We're proposing a complete restructuring of galactic civilization. Not conquest, not empire, but cooperation on a scale never before attempted. Ancient humanity left behind technology that could revolutionize energy production, transportation, terraforming, even genetic medicine, but they also left behind warnings about the dangers of uncontrolled technological advancement. She gestured to include all the assembled representatives. Humanity offers to share this technology freely, but only as part of a new galactic charter that prioritizes sustainable development, mutual cooperation, and careful technological advancement. We want to work with every species to ensure that we don't repeat our ancestors' mistakes. The galactic mediator rose slowly, its ancient form commanding attention. You're proposing that humanity become a partner in galactic governance, rather than a subject of it. We're proposing that all species become partners in galactic governance, Chen corrected. The old system of treaties and territorial restrictions worked when the galaxy was divided into separate spheres of influence. But modern transportation and communication technology makes those divisions artificial. We need new approaches that recognize the interconnected nature of galactic civilization. The chamber erupted into intense discussion as representatives communicated with their home governments. The proposal was audacious, a complete restructuring of galactic politics based on cooperation rather than competition. 3 hours later, the galactic mediator called for order and announced the preliminary vote results. 37 species have voted to enter into formal negotiations for a new galactic charter. 5 species have requested additional time to consider the proposal. 3 species have abstained pending further consultation with their governments. 2 species have voted against the proposal, but have agreed to respect any agreements reached by the majority. Chen felt a wave of relief and apprehension. When do we begin negotiations? Immediately, replied High Counselor Zethvar, his crystalline form now glowing with excited energy. The galaxy stands at a crossroads. We can either work together to build something unprecedented, or we can watch the old order collapse into chaos and conflict. As the session adjourned and species representatives began forming working groups to tackle different aspects of the new charter, Chen reflected on how dramatically the situation had changed. What had begun as a simple territorial dispute had revealed ancient secrets and opened the possibility of a completely new approach to galactic civilization. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in galactic history, it looked genuinely hopeful. Humanity had walked out of negotiations, but in doing so, they had opened the door to something far better than anyone had imagined possible. The real work was just beginning.